Thank you, Speaker. I rise to ask the following questions to the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Could the Prime Cabinet Secretary clarify whether any senior government officials or their family members directly or indirectly own, control, or benefit from recruitment, training, or insurance companies involved in deploying Kenyan workers to the Gulf? Provide the full terms of the current bilateral labor agreements with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including negotiated wages, complaint handling mechanisms, emergency response obligations, and repatriation terms for Kenyan workers. Explain the current capacity of the Kenyan Embassy in Riyadh and the consulate in Jeddah to respond to reports of abuse and to protect Kenyan workers in distress, including staffing, funding, safe house availability, and case resolution mechanisms. Explain the criteria and specific oversight mechanisms applied in vetting agencies before they are granted recruitment licenses, and further explain the number of recruitment agency licenses that have been revoked in the last 5 years. Provide the number of workers that have been repatriated due to abuse, medical emergencies, or labor violations, and the specific legal, psychosocial, or financial support that has been provided. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, could the Prime Cabinet Secretary explain why the minimum wages of Kenyan domestic workers in the Gulf countries has not been renegotiated in line with regional benchmarks such as the Philippines and Sri Lanka? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Cabinet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to respond as follows. First, Kenyans migrating abroad must have travel insurance cover, and I wish to state that no single insurance company has a monopoly covering Kenyans seeking jobs in the Gulf or any other country. Individuals and Kenyan private recruitment agencies are at liberty to choose their preferred insurance companies. As to whether there is details of family members directly involved or own or control, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that we have a list of 594 recruitment agencies, and it would take quite a bit of time to go through that detail. But also to point out that as we speak, this Parliament appropriately passed the Conflict of Interest Bill, and if through the process anybody is found to be in conflict with what their role is, then appropriate action would be taken. The second aspect is, what are the terms of the current bilateral labor agreements with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including negotiated wages and complaint handling mechanisms, emergency responses, and obligations? I wish to respond as follows. Kenya is at an advanced stage of negotiating with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for a new comprehensive agreement that will cover skilled and semi-skilled workers with significantly improved wages and conditions. Just this week, we have received official communication on enhanced wage agreements for Kenyans employed in the Kingdom of Arabia. The third aspect of the questions was to explain the current capacity of the Kenyan Embassy in Riyadh and the consulate in Jeddah to respond to the reports of abuse and how they protect Kenyans workers in distress. Mr. Speaker, the number of Kenyans living and working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has exponentially, now estimated at 350,000. To enhance consular services, we recently opened a consulate in Jeddah to augment the mission in Riyadh. We will also be seeking more budgetary support to expand the capacity of our mission to serve Kenyans better, the government will be seeking funding for the establishment of a safe house for Kenyans in distress. The fourth aspect of the question was to explain the criteria and oversight mechanisms applied in vetting agencies before they are granted recruitment licenses, and further explain the number of recruitment agencies that have had their licenses. Mr. Speaker, a multi-agency committee comprising of the Department of Labor, Interior, Foreign Affairs, the Attorney General, the National Police, National Intelligence Service, and Director of Criminal Investigations, DCI, was set up. This committee vets all applications by recruitment agencies in line with Section 54A to 60 of the Labor Institutions Act of 2007 and the Private Employment Agencies Regulations of 2016. The criteria includes financial capability of a capital base of Kenya shillings 5 million, office space and facilities, educational qualifications of the directors and managers, degree for the manager and Form 4 certificate for directors. Others are individuals with others are to make sure that the individuals have no criminal record. They must at least be one Kenyan director. Foreigners must be in possession of a work permit. Mr. Speaker, there are currently 594 recruitment agencies with valid licenses. The government has to date deregistered over 600 other agencies on various grounds of malpractice. The fifth aspect of the question was to provide the number of workers that have been repatriated due to abuse and other challenges. Mr. Speaker, the number of distress cases handled from the Middle East from 2023 to date are 3,452. Finally, the member wanted us to explain why the minimum wages of Kenyan domestic workers in the Gulf countries has not been renegotiated in line with regional benchmarks such as the Philippines and Sri Lanka. The bilateral labor agreement for domestic workers was signed in 2018 and it came into operation in 2019. In addition, a meeting held in February 2019 between the representatives of the Saudi manpower companies and Kenyan recruitment agencies agreed on a minimum salary of 850 Saudi riyals, that is about 30,000 Kenya shillings. However, from 1st October 2025, Saudi Arabia officially launched phase 3 of its wage protection system for domestic workers. Under this phase, all employers who hire 2 or more domestic workers are now required to transfer salaries through official digital channels via the MUSAND platform. This step reflects the Kingdom's strong commitment to safeguarding workers' rights and ensuring timely, transparent, and secure salary payments. By January 2026, the system will become mandatory for all domestic workers in Saudi Arabia, regardless of the number of employees. The WPS system for domestic workers is the first system of its kind globally to cover this category of workers. And this represents a landmark reform from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia so that it strengthens protection, promotes fair treatment, and enhances trust between us and recruitment officers. This initiative will support our shared goals of ensuring the dignity, security, and welfare of domestic workers while further reinforcing our collaboration. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, let me just reaffirm that our citizens are not merely migrating for work. They are being actively recruited worldwide because of their skills, resilience, and work ethic. The government celebrates this global recognition and will spare no effort in building robust systems, including bilateral agreements, real-time embassy interventions, verified recruitment, and enforceable protections, so that every Kenyan who steps out to earn abroad does so with the full backing and shield of the government.
Naisula.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Prime Cabinet Secretary, for your response. I just have two follow-up questions. Is it a coincidence that Saudi Arabia is where we get all, or Middle East, is where we get most of the complaints about Kenyans being mistreated there, and not other parts of the country? Because I'm sure there are other Kenyans who are going to work in other parts of the world, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to say that it is important that we get the full terms of the current bilateral labor agreement, because that is what I asked for. Even if you're working on the new one, it is important that we get to see it, because it is then, it will put, and I think, Mr. Speaker, just a statement that I would like to make, once these things are settled once and for all, it will avoid a lot of misinformation out there, Mr. Speaker. And so it is important for the Prime Cabinet Secretary to just come outrightly on some of these matters so that it can put to rest once and for all, because I'm sure this is not the first time that we've had this question in this House.
Shakil first. Kisumu Town East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm also the chairman of APNAC, the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption, and in the next meetings we are talking about the problems of migrant workers as one of these issues. The question that I have, I'd like a confirmation from the Chief, from Honorable